There is a quiet strength that looks like calm but isn't bravery. It isn't independence. It isn't confidence or pride or resilience. It stays steady, returns every day, and never announces itself. You see it in people who show up, perform, adapt, and keep things moving. They function, they manage. They rarely falter outwardly. But something is missing beneath the competence, a gap where asking should live. A long habit of carrying everything alone. It forms early, hardens quietly, and becomes identity before anyone thinks to question it fully. This is the psychology of people who never ask for help. At first glance, this trait often looks admirable, reliable, contained, the kind of person others lean on, without ever asking whether the weight is too heavy. They are the ones who figure things out privately, who say it's fine, and mean it just enough to keep the conversation moving. There's no drama here, no visible crisis, just a steady pattern of self-sufficiency that feels almost invisible. Psychologists have long noticed how easily this gets misread. From the outside, it looks like strength. From the inside, it feels more like a rule, an unspoken agreement with life that says needing less is safer than needing at all. Not because help is unwanted, but because it feels unfamiliar, exposed, or strangely out of reach. These people often learn early how to scan a room and adjust. They notice what's expected and quietly meet it. They become good at anticipating problems before they arrive, solving them before anyone notices there was ever a need. Over time, this competence hardens into identity. The one who handles things, the one who doesn't burden others, the one who keeps moving. Clinicians frequently see this pattern paired with a calm exterior and a private, tightly managed inner world. Feelings are present but organized. Needs are felt but postponed. There's a preference for self-containment that isn't coldness, just caution. Asking for help feels like interrupting something fragile, like breaking a rhythm that has kept everything intact for years. There is often a history here, though it rarely arrives as a single dramatic event. More often, it's a sequence of small lessons, moments where support was inconsistent, times when asking didn't lead to relief, situations where competence was rewarded and need was quietly ignored. Attachment researchers often observe how children adapt, not by demanding more, but by needing less. So they learn to self-regulate early, to soothe themselves, to carry questions internally until they no longer sound like questions at all. This isn't rejection of others, it's adaptation. A way of staying connected without risking disappointment. A way of belonging without asking for space. Outwardly, life keeps working. Jobs are done well. Relationships function. Responsibilities are met. But internally, there's a subtle narrowing. A shrinking of what feels permissible to ask for. Over time, even wanting help can feel foreign, as if the language for it was never fully learned. Jung once described the danger of over-identifying with a role. When the role becomes the self, anything that threatens it feels destabilizing. For someone who has become the capable one, needing help doesn't just feel inconvenient, it feels like erosion, like stepping out of character and risking collapse. Neuroscience suggests that patterns like this aren't just psychological preferences, they're embodied. The nervous system learns what is safe through repetition. If self-reliance has consistently prevented disappointment, the body remembers. It settles into control, into vigilance, into quiet management. Letting others in can feel physically unsettling, even when emotionally desired. There's a paradox here that often goes unnoticed. The people who never ask for help are often deeply attuned to others. They notice strain quickly. They offer support without being asked. They can sense when someone else is overwhelmed. Belonging for them flows outward more easily than inward. But reciprocity feels different. Receiving disrupts the balance they know. It asks them to pause, to be seen mid-effort, mid-uncertainty, and that pause can feel intolerable. So they keep moving, solving, holding. Over time, this creates a quiet loneliness that's hard to name. Not the loneliness of isolation, but the loneliness of being surrounded and still unaccompanied, of being known for what you do, not for what you carry, of being dependable without ever feeling held. Many people don't recognize themselves in this description at first. They tell themselves they simply prefer independence, that they don't want to bother anyone, that they'll ask if they really need to. But the threshold for really need keeps moving. The bar rises, the silence grows more practiced, and somewhere beneath the functioning, beneath the competence, a quieter question waits, not who will help me, but what would happen if I let them. The shadow of this pattern doesn't arrive as collapse. It arrives as fatigue that doesn't quite register as exhaustion, as emotional flatness that isn't sadness, as a sense of distance even in moments that should feel shared. People who never ask for help often don't feel overwhelmed in the way others describe it. They feel contained, tight, as if life is being held together by constant, invisible effort. Psychologists sometimes notice how this containment becomes a kind of inner posture. The body stays composed, the voice stays measured, even distress moves quietly. There's an internal editing process that happens before anything reaches the surface. What's acceptable? What's manageable? What can stay inside a little longer? This is where the paradox deepens. Because not asking for help isn't about believing others are incapable. It's often the opposite. There's a heightened awareness of others' limits, moods, pressures. These individuals sense the fragility in people around them and instinctively move to protect it. Their silence becomes an act of care. Winnicott once wrote about the false self, not as deception, but as protection. A way the psyche shields what feels too vulnerable to expose. For people who never ask for help, competence becomes that shield. It keeps relationships smooth, predictable, safe, but it also keeps something essential untouched. Neuroscience suggests that when vulnerability has been paired with uncertainty or inconsistency, the brain learns to associate openness with threat. Not dramatic threat, subtle threat. The kind that tightens the chest, speeds the mind, signals caution. So even when help is offered sincerely, the body hesitates, not consciously, automatically. This is why reassurance rarely penetrates. Being told you can ask doesn't undo years of conditioning. The nervous system isn't persuaded by logic, it responds to patterns. And the pattern here says, staying self-contained works. It prevents disruption, it keeps things intact. There's often grief beneath this, though it rarely announces itself as such. A grief for moments that might have been shared but weren't, for needs that were felt but never translated into words, for a version of connection that feels imaginable but distant, like a language almost remembered. People with this pattern often describe feeling most like themselves when they're alone, not because they dislike others, but because solitude removes the need to perform stability. Alone, there's no audience for composure, no expectation to manage impressions. The inner world can loosen its grip, if only briefly. Yet even in solitude, the habit persists. problems are turned over privately. Emotions are analysed rather than expressed. Reflection replaces reaching out. Jung described this inward turning as both a gift and a risk. Insight deepens, but isolation can too. Social pain research has shown that exclusion and unmet belonging activate the same neural regions as physical pain. But for people who never ask for help, this pain doesn't feel sharp. It feels dull, backgrounded, like a low-frequency hum that's easy to ignore until it isn't. What often emerges instead is self-reliance taken to its limit, the belief that needing others is a weakness of planning, foresight, or character. Not because anyone taught this explicitly, but because it feels true in the body. Dependence registers as danger. Autonomy registers as calm. This is why even intimacy can feel strangely asymmetrical. They listen deeply. They support generously. They show up consistently. But when it's their turn to be held, something resists. Not rejection. Withdrawal, a subtle pulling back that keeps the center intact. Over time, this can create a sense of invisibility, of being appreciated without being known, of being valued for steadiness, not for humanity. And yet there's pride woven through this too, a quiet satisfaction in being capable, in not needing, in surviving without leaning. Identity forms here. I'm the one who handles things. An identity, once formed, is hard to loosen. Asking for help doesn't just challenge comfort, it challenges self-concept. Who am I if I need someone else? What happens to the structure I've built? This is often where recognition begins, not as a decision to change, but as a noticing. A moment when the pattern becomes visible rather than automatic. When self-sufficiency no longer feels neutral, but heavy. When carrying alone starts to feel less like strength and more like habit. Existentially, there's something deeply human in this pattern. It speaks to adaptation, to resilience shaped by circumstances rather than choice, to the quiet intelligence of a psyche that learned how to survive and then mistook survival for completion. People who never ask for help are not broken, they are organized around safety. Their lives often work, they function, they contribute, but something remains unresolved. Not a problem to fix, but a tension to live with. Because eventually, the question isn't whether help is deserved or available, it's whether carrying everything alone is still necessary. And that question doesn't demand an answer, it simply waits, patient and persistent, in the background of a life that has learned how to manage, but not always how to rest.